This conference will now be recorded.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump on over to our Bible study tonight. We're continuing the Bible study that we started last week. So we're in Luke chapter 10, verse 25 through 29. And we talked quite a bit about this last week. This is the parable of the Good Samaritan. For those of you that weren't here last week, this is the parable of the Good Samaritan. So I'm going to go ahead and read through it. And I've thought of some things since last week, since we gathered last week, and hope that y'all might have thought about some things and some questions. We'll go over real quick what we kind of learned last week, and then we'll jump into some of the new questions for it today. But this is Luke 10, 25 through 29. One day, an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question: "Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus replied, "What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it?" The man answered, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "Right," Jesus told him. "Do this and you will live." The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey, and he took him to an inn, where he took care of him. The next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bills run higher than this, I will pay you the next time I'm here." Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, "The one who showed him mercy." Then Jesus said, "Yes, now go and do the same." Yeah, hold on 1 second. Okay, sorry. Had somebody that had to, that was awkward. I'm sorry. But it's something I had to reply to. So last week, the thing that we talked about the most was we talked about who the people were involved in the story. We talked about who the Jewish person was. We talked about the Samaritan and how the Jewish people and the Samaritans didn't get along, and how they really were at odds with each other. They really had a hard time. They had a hard time agreeing, or they disagreed on how they should worship God and how they should live out their faith. And it was really not good. They didn't want to go close to each other. We talked about who the priest was and what his responsibilities were. And then we also talked about the Levite who worked in the the temple as kind of the worship leader there at the temple and what his role was. So we talked about all of that. So this week, did y'all think anything that y'all wanted to discuss since last week that might have come up? Any questions? Because the whole question here is that you're supposed to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And then the guy said, well, who is my neighbor? And Jesus is answering this question not by saying, who do you love, but who's the person that is the neighbor. So he's not saying that's your neighbor. I think the guy wanted to say that's your neighbor, that's your neighbor, that's your neighbor, that's your neighbor. But the way Jesus answers this question is the neighbor is the person that acts like this to whoever it may come to be. So the answer, what we're trying to figure out here and what we're trying to talk about is how do we love our neighbor? And we love our neighbor in this way. So there are some things that I want to talk about. To being kind to someone. I think when you're kind, when you love someone, that's our goal. And I think that this man, when he shows him mercy and compassion in this, he is showing him kindness. He is loving him, being very merciful, being very full of compassion. So what are the barriers? What are the barriers to the people in this story that prevent them from loving the man on the road? What are the barriers? What did you notice? The first man, I'll read it to you. The priest. A chance, a priest came by, but he saw the man lying there. He crossed to the other side of the road and he passed him by. So the priest, what?
Fear.
Might have been fear. He might have been afraid.
He might have thought he was unclean, or already dead. So, they're not supposed to touch anything unclean.
But he was coming back from Jerusalem, so he wasn't going to worship. So it's kind of, that's a good excuse if he was going to work, but I think he was coming back from work.
Maybe like his reputation, or like someone might have been watching him.
Yeah, his reputation, somebody might have been watching. But, if you're a priest and you're supposed to be the hands and feet of God, do you think it would be the opposite? Maybe he was trying to get away real quick before somebody did see him not do anything. I don't know. I think one of the things that he was doing here was that he was avoiding it. He was avoiding this person because he says that he saw him and he walked to the other side. He didn't even go, he avoided him.
He was a false priest then. Because if he's worried about somebody seeing him, he obviously doesn't realize that God sees him and knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So he obviously wasn't really a believer.
Yeah.
Maybe he got.
Maybe he knew the guy. Well, that's even worse. Like we talked about last week, he might have been offering sacrifices just the day before in the temple on behalf of that guy. That guy might have been at the temple, worshiping. So I think he avoided him. And I bring that up because we're called to love our neighbors as ourselves as well, right? We are called to love. And I think that there are times in my life that I avoid people because I don't want to get drug into their mess. Does anybody else besides me do that? Do y'all avoid people because you don't want to get drug into their mess? Like I know that there have been times in my life where I'll see somebody at Walmart or something and I'll go down another aisle or something just to because I don't want to have to deal with their stuff right then, and I'm being selfish. So I avoid them. And when I was reading this, that's something that kind of convicted me, is that, I don't need to be avoiding people, because when I avoid people and I get close to them, then I see their need, I hear their need, and I'm able to see what's going on. He might have just, in his mind, he was probably going, I don't know what he was thinking, but he was like, oh, there's somebody asleep on the side of the road, or, oh, I'm not going to go there. And he probably justified in his mind, that guy was okay. There was nothing wrong with him, and
Would it be like unfazed? Would that be kind of the same thing?
I think
Unfazed?
the next one is the next. I think the next
So
one.
in that time, it was okay to sleep naked along the road?
No, I don't think so. But I don't know what kind of mental gymnastics he was going through to justify, but he had to justify it in his mind somehow. We always have to justify, so I think one of the barriers to us loving people and to being kind and showing mercy and compassion is that we avoid them. We stay to ourselves, right? We stay to ourselves. And there's probably a lot of excuses that we have on why. I don't want to get unclean. I don't want to be late to work, or my wife, or, but so we avoid stuff, so. And then Rosemary touched on the next one. A temple assistant walked over and he looked at him lying there, but he also passed by. What did you say? He wasn't fazed by him. He was indifferent. He didn't care. This guy literally went over, saw a guy dying, and he was indifferent. He didn't care. I mean, if he cared, he would have done something, right? He'd have gone and got help. He would have gone back up the road looking for somebody and saw the Samaritan guy and said, hey, come help. But he literally saw somebody suffering and he just was indifferent to it. And I too, as I'm trying to follow Jesus and allow him to change me, there have been times in my life where I see people that are suffering, and I'm indifferent to it. I might think about it for a little bit, but somehow I smush it down inside of me to where I don't have to think about it anymore. I say something like, oh, I'll come back later and help them or whatever, but I'm just indifferent to them. Whether it be somebody in need or, somebody that I know that I need to talk to, and I text them and say, I can't talk to you right now. And in my mind, am I going to call him back or am I not going to call him? This is what's going on right now in my head. I promise you, I'll call this guy back when I get in the car and head back home. But it's a conversation that I also really don't want to have, right? I don't want to have that conversation because it's going to be hard and it's probably going to drag me into something that might take a while to work our way through. So sometimes instead of loving that person and having that conversation or offering that, sometimes I think we're indifferent to it, and we just
You don't text me back right away?
no. Lonnie. I always text you back unless I'm asleep.
No.
So I think those are some things that are going on. That are going on here. So indifference or avoidance. I think that's a lot of times I think that's our problem. We have a lot of excuses for that, but I think that's our problem sometimes. So we get to the next one. So those were barriers for us showing kindness, us loving our neighbors, us showing mercy and compassion to somebody. So let's look at the Samaritan, and instead of what prevented him, what were some of the things that he did that were not that he did not allow to be a barrier for him to show mercy and compassion and love and kindness to this person? So now we're going to look at the Samaritan. Granted, he has several verses written about him, verses 1 for each of the other two. But then a despised Samaritan, which we talked about this last week, despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Okay.
Probably could relate to him.
Probably could relate to him. Yeah, he could relate to him maybe from being despised. Of course, he was going to his own country. He was going to where all of him and his people, they despised other people, but he could probably relate to him. So I should have put a picture up here, but I was going to put a picture of the man on the road and the Samaritan, a painting. Of course, they don't have a picture, but a depiction of it. But one of the things that I saw that the Samaritan did not let be it indifference was the man's past, who he was. There was no way you could identify who that man was on the ground. You didn't know what country he is from. You don't know what religion he was. You don't know if he was the robber or if he was robbed. You don't know anything about his past. So one thing the Samaritan did not allow to be a hindrance was the person's history or his past to be a hindrance on whether or not he was going to love him. And once again, I'm confessing for myself and probably other people in this room, but there's a lot of times where I allow someone's past to be a hindrance on whether or not show them love or compassion. And what Jesus is saying is that that's not allowed. That's not allowed. These people, they literally don't like each other. They had squabbles and battles against each other. And Jesus is saying that doesn't matter. I mean, like, especially in prison, Henry used to work at the prison for years. But, once you found out what the guy did, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to love that guy and to be kind to that guy when you know what he did, right? Or that whatever, I'm not going to give any more examples, but, or where he's from, or what country he's in, or what religion he follows, or whatever it is. That, for me, is a barrier for me sometimes, showing love to people. Like, but so, when I know that somebody's treated somebody else bad and they come for me to help, there's a little bit of me that I don't know if I want to help you because I know what you did to so-and-so.
Remember?
Yeah, remember? And so that's one thing that the Samaritan did. He did not, there was no judgment. There was nothing there about that person's past or upbringing or where he's from, who was nothing to him. And then he did the opposite. He saw the man, the priest saw the man and he went the other way. This guy, he saw the man, and even from a distance as he saw the man, he felt compassion for him, so he went over to him. So he's already done better than the priest, right? Then we get to the comparison with the Levite. The Levite saw the person, went over to him. Of course, he didn't have any compassion because he was just curious. He was like, man, is this guy dead? I mean, did they steal everything? I mean, who knows? Who knows what he was thinking? So he went over to him, and this is something that he did. He soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged him. People don't run around on their donkeys with bandages, right? And with oil and wine to fix people that are hurt. So I'm willing to say he used the olive oil that he was going to cook with that night. He used the wine that he was going to drink that night. And he probably tore a garment up that he might wear the next day. And he used all that to help this person. So, and then he put him on his own donkey. This was his donkey. He bought this donkey. He paid for this donkey. He might have been riding that donkey. I don't know what the story, but it was his donkey. So the thing that the Samaritan did not let be a hindrance to him loving this person was his own stuff. Whether it be, this is my money and I don't want to give it to you to help. This is my time and I don't want to give it to you. This is my knowledge and I don't want to, whatever it is. This was something that he was in control of. And once again, I'll confess, there are some times where I see somebody that I know I could help them, But in the back of my mind, I go, yeah, but I need to get a new weed eater I need to get a new weed eater, and I need, so I don't know. So, and I'm not bragging on all of us that have weed eaters and stuff, but in my own mind, there have been times where I've made decisions not to help people because I wanted to keep my stuff, or I didn't want to give them what I had.
Making me question whether I should follow you.
Lonnie. And if everybody can confess that they have never done what I'll just confess, then I'll be sorry. But I think we all do that. We all do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all do.
I kind of held you up on this pedestal.
Yeah. I help a lot, Lonnie. I really do. I do. I help a lot. But there have been times looking back when I didn't. So the next day, so he put him on, he put on his donkey and he took him to an inn and he took care of him. So he got a room at the end. He took him into the inn. He took care of him, watched over him, probably fed him, cleaned out his, bandages, whatever. So the next day, he went to the innkeeper and he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins and told him, he said, take care of this man. He said, if his bills run higher than this, I will pay you the next time that I'm here. So once again, the stuff that he has, he gave it. He gave the 2 silver coins. He gave the 2 silver coins to pay what is already done and to pay for the foreseeable portion. And then the next thing he did was he tied this guy's future with his future. And he said, and this is a hindrance for me. Sometimes when I talk to somebody in a pastoral way, I will recommend that they go to a certain counselor, or I recommend they go to this professional or something like that, because I know, one, it might be over my head and I can't handle it. But in other times, it might be, I don't know if I'm going to have the next year and a half to walk through this, on a weekly basis with this person. I don't know. So a hindrance for me is, am I going to be able to invest kind of an open check? It's like, I don't know when this is going to be closed. I don't know if this guy, I mean, okay, what if that guy got hit in the head really bad and he can't go to work anymore, and he just stays at the inn for the next 3 years, and every time you come by, the innkeeper goes, you owe me 14 silvers because, he's still here, I mean, that's kind of, I didn't think about that until just now, but I mean, that's kind of what this guy's saying. He's saying, you take care of him and I'll make sure that it's made right.
Take responsibility.
Yeah, take responsibility for him. And I've done that in my life I've had college kids move in with me, and I said, man, when you're here, you're my kid, and I'll take care of you just like I do we've had 3 people move into our house over the past 14 years where I didn't know if it was going to be 3 months or 30 years, and it was just like, okay, this is the way it is. And we had to have talks with my kids and say, hey, this is how it is. And they're going on vacation with us, and they're going to grandma's for Christmas. And that's, and we've done that 3 different times over the last 15 years. And, but sometimes I'm hesitant of that, and I just admit that sometimes I'm hesitant in that. So Jesus comes. Any other questions on how the Levite, the priest, or the Samaritan responded? Any other questions or insights?
Kind of wanted to know where the Samaritan guy was going. Like, why didn't he stay there till the next day? Like, did he have other business to tend to? Or?
He was in Judea, so he wasn't in his home country. So it was kind of like he was just passing through.
Probably a businessman.
Yeah, he was probably a merchant or something. something that he had to go get his stuff
Usually
done.
some merchants have like oils and all that.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess yeah, you're saying so he could have been better. Is that what you're saying? He could have stayed a little bit longer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Kendrick wants him to be the great Samaritan, not the good Samaritan. Yeah, but maybe that's all he could do. Maybe he did as much as he could, and the innkeeper could do just as well as he could. And he saw that what he did is good. But any other questions or comments on that? So Jesus asked this, which of these three was the neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Who was the neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, the one who showed mercy. And Jesus says, yes, now go and do the same. And I think that's the command for all of us. Now, yes, go and do the same. And that we need to just be aware. One other thing that I wanted to point out before, let me make sure nobody typed anything, other questions, but he starts this off. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho when he was attacked by bandits. This isn't really a part of, I think this is just advice. I don't even know how to word it. But I think we get ourselves in trouble when we go down the wrong road. And I'm not saying the Jewish man was going down the wrong road, but I think sometimes we try to go down a road that isn't our road. We try to go down a road that is somebody else's road, or we try to go down a road that we think somebody else wants us to go down. And we're trying to be somebody that we're not. And I think sometimes when we go down the road that we're not supposed to be going down, we run into people, bandits, that strip us, take our clothes off, beat us up, and leave us half dead by the side of the road because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. I see this a lot with college kids. You know, they're trying to be like this, and then they keep going down that road. And really, as they go down that road, the people that they're associating with are just beating them up, leaving them naked to die on the side of the road, and they don't even realize it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so I think that, and I'm not saying that this Jewish man shouldn't have been going down, but I think that we need to know the road that we need to be traveling, and we don't need to be trying to be somebody that we're not, or trying to be doing something that we shouldn't be doing. We need to just be firmly rooted in who we are and go down that. And that's really not the point of Jesus' story here. But I do think that we can go down roads and come in contact with people that beat us up, strip us, and leave us half dead on the side of the road, you
I
know?
think that happens to us because we're not following him.
Yeah.
If he's not being our guide, he always makes a way for us, but if we just kind of want to do our own thing and do whatever, we're not following him, so we do get into those
Yeah.
wrong places.
All right. Any thoughts or questions or comments on the good or the great Samaritan? If Kendrick.
Maybe the church worker that stopped by that saw him, maybe he realized, maybe he had a bad back and a bad hip. And he could do it.
Let somebody
Okay.
else do it. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Jesus told this story in a way that the priest and the Levite went and got help. I think he was telling this in a way that they avoided him and they were indifferent to him. Yeah. So I think Jesus would have told that part of the story because it is a parable. It's probably happened, but
Probably more than we would like.
yeah, probably more than we'd like. So, all right, guys. Well, it's good seeing y'all online. Bye, ladies. And we will, just real quick, we're not going to be having Bible study next week. I'm going to be traveling, so I will not be here next week, but the following week we will have Bible study. But next week, the 14th, we will not, but the 21st we will. All right.